I'd like to introduce a guest to you, if I could. If you cast your mind back to the time before all this began, a French philosopher called Bernard-Henri Levy, who was in Egypt during the Egyptian Revolution, came to Libya because he said that he saw the potential for Gaddafi wreaking terrible havoc against his own people. He then phoned the French president, Nicolas Sarkozy, and helped persuade France to begin the armed war against Gaddafi's regime. He's now come back to Benghazi, and he's with me now. Monsieur Henri Levy, thank you very much indeed for your time. Why, first of all, did you come back to Benghazi now?
Just to continue my work of free spirit and to continue to defend, when I am back in France and in Europe, the values of this free city. I hear so many stupidities about Benghazi. That,
like what?
That the National Council is not a really democratic one, that Al-Qaeda is present in the ranks of the freedom fighters of Benghazi. So I decided to come back to continue my investigation and to find out what is true or false, and actually it is false in these sort of allegations.
You obviously persuaded President Sarkozy that this was a noble and just conflict against a despotic ruler, and yet over the course of time, clearly since then, it's become very evident that many really don't agree. France obviously sides with Britain for once and America, but Germany doesn't agree about this. The African Union are in Tripoli tonight and possibly here tomorrow, and they are talking about talks potentially with Gaddafi, and so are Turkey. Have you been surprised by all these international divisions?
Not only surprised, it is a shame. It is a shame. The attitude of Germany was a shame. Those African countries who support Gaddafi is a shame. The attitude of Algeria, who delivers some pickup through the border to help the mercenaries of Gaddafi, is a shame. Those countries who send some dogs of war to fight against the free people of Libya is a shame.
But you're not a politician, you're a philosopher, and you're not used to having to make, you know, diplomatic statements and work one side off against the other. No. I mean, you must understand that people have entrenched interests, and some African countries are very close to Gaddafi.
As a philosopher, I cannot understand how some states, and some states who were under colonization, who freed themselves from colonization, can back Gaddafi, who is just a killer, who is a murderer, whose son promised to this country some rivers of blood. How can countries, noble countries of Africa, who again did win their own freedom against colonization, can back such a gang? This is for me absolutely really difficult to understand as a philosopher.
You persuaded Monsieur Sarkozy that to go to war. Are you now talking to him from Benghazi about what's happening now? Clearly the rebels aren't winning. What's Monsieur Sarkozy's point of view at this point in time?
Number one, I did not persuade him of nothing. I think he persuaded himself alone. Number two, I did not think that we had to go to war. I thought that we had to stop the war. It's Gaddafi who made the war against his own people. This is a story which happens here. The war of a state against its own people. This is what has had to be stopped. I was this morning at the very location...
We're almost out of time, so please be quick if you can.
I was at the very spot where the tanks of Gaddafi arrived at the doors of Benghazi, and where the planes of Sarkozy stopped them. And you can see physically how the bloodbath was avoided at 1 minute, or 1 hour.
Thank you very much for your time. The African Union delegation, we think, may come to Benghazi tomorrow. We'll offer you full coverage here on Live on Al Jazeera then. Gita, back to you.
Thank you, Lawrence.